All right, everybody, welcome to tonight's call. It is October 30th of 2024, and this is the Profitable Real Estate Agent Plan. I had to think about that for a second. I had so many calls each week, but this is the Profitable Real Estate Agent Plan. And quite frankly, this is the core and fundamental conversation to running a successful, profitable business. Of course, it's very hard in a 12-week segmented class to take you through and really teach you all the how to do. So you have to understand that this course is very much predicated on what to do to build a business. And I know that a lot of you might be just jumping on the train. I know that my new ladies from Ellis Estates will be joining, people like that are just coming on. Don't be intimidated by the subject being number 12 out of 12. And then we're going to take, just so you all know, we're going to take a little bit of a 2-week break, which we always do. I run for 12, think through it a little bit, come back in a couple of weeks, start all over again. So you can catch this course at any point in time, but each segment of it is a strategic discussion about what to do along an assembly line. So you're never really lost in that subject, especially tonight. Tonight's going to be talking about past clients. And really, this is the thing we've been trying to create from the very beginning of the course. We're trying to create this happy past client, but then what do we do with them? And it's a really good subject for all of us to think about the end result, right? Because we're always looking at how do we do this and, tactically, and there's so much you can get overwhelmed. So what I ask you to do is keep a broader perspective. I'm happy at the end of these calls after the lecture portion, which is known as training. I'm happy to go back and have a conversation about anything, right? So if you want to get into the details about how I do something, or you want to ask a question about any part of the course, I'm here to help coach you too. So if something's bothering you or you need some coaching, and a lot of my my partner Grant is here tonight, right? Not only is he a mastermind member, but partner. You just notice that successful people like Grant are inquisitive and they're always curious, right? You can't hear me, Grant? Can you hear me? You can hear me, right? Yeah, yeah, you. Yeah, I just got a note that somebody can't hear me. So, Melanie, that's got to be on your side. Yes. So you'll have to check your speakers. So if you can't hear me, because I know I can see my mic is live here and I'm registering sound and Grant's confirming. So if you can't hear me, check the speakers on whatever you're listening to me on. Go into your settings. Your speakers might be closed off. So the idea is to make sure you're understanding that this is a high level. We're just going through this whole thing and it's a high level, right? And it's what to do. And I think that's really important for you to understand. Okay. So let me see, Grant, what are you seeing on my screen? I just want to make sure you're seeing. Good. Bravo. Good. Perfect. Yep. That's what I wanted to see. Okay. So tonight, let me go to something else though. I want to show you too. And I have to go back to see if I have the whole thing up here. Yeah, here I do. Let me just get rid of this one. I'm going to show another screen. Share this tab. Okay, good. So what I want to let you know is where we've been. Okay. So in week 1, we talk about this mindset as a profitable real estate agent. And I really get into what to do. And that really included doing some reading on psycho-cybernetics and things like that. But to really believe that you can do this, because I have a couple of new agents right now. And I am telling you, they're all young, enthusiastic, but they have to believe that they can do it for themselves today. We talked about that in week 1. Most of you now are knowing I'm very adamant about your setting your financial goal inside of the Griffin and inside of the TRC coaching programs. We really require the early step to be, whether you're a super top producer, and I mean people doing multi-millions, to a brand new agent. I'm asking people to do this financial GCI goal setting because it's very important that you set this goal out there for your top line of your business. We can figure out all the A's and minus B's and equal C's later, but you need that A, you need that goal. We talk about why and how to do that. Week 3, we say, but you got to get ready. You have to know how to answer the question of why people should do business with you. We get into the development of a buyer and a seller package, which changed my life, by the way, in this business. Then we define, okay, you can have a great package and a great, informational product, but who does it really land with? So you have to define what an avatar or ideal lead, ideal prospect, and ideal client look like, right? We talk about that in week 4. And finally, then we can get to leads, because most of you will start with the lead discussion. Where are the leads? How do I get leads? They're hiding in plain sight. We talk about that in, number 5. For example, expireds, probates where somebody's passed, for sale by owners, referrals from professionals and friends. Everything's hiding in plain sight. There's no shortage of leads. It's just that you don't really know how to go out and get those leads. So we talk about that week 5. Week 6, we get into the difference really between content marketing versus social media marketing, really what the differences are and how to do that correctly. And I had a good question from Luke today, one of our coaching clients, agents, and he was just asking how all of this media tied into the big picture. Really good question, and it was easy to tie that in. 7, got to know what to say, and you have to be scripted. You can't be winging it. I can't believe how many top producers are still winging it, especially on the listing side, which is probably why a lot of them don't do more listings, because they really think that they should do it on personality and rapport building without a structure. Not right, like way off. Danny Griffin armed with a script in this day and age would kill Danny Griffin from 15, 20 years ago, who had much more energy and enthusiasm. I would kill that guy head to head, because everything now is very scripted with the intent of empowering the consumer. We talked about that in week 7. Then once you make a lead into a prospect, because remember, I tell you this all the time, the raw material running along the base of your business is a contact. It's always a contact, right? From the minute you get it to a past client, it's a contact, meaning it has a fully formed contact, would include full name, telephone number, email address, and mailing address, which becomes very critical in the methodology we teach here, right? So we talk all about that prospecting and then guarding those people. Then we really get into the client care management, which really starts like, how do you care for that prospect? So we're protecting them from neglect, but we're also beginning to show them how we would care at the client level, which is a dramatic demonstration of why they should do business with us. So we rotate from sellers to buyers. And then last week, we talked about the closing process being something that is very slippery slope for most people, where we really end up neglecting a little bit too much of that attention, because now we're almost feeling like we got the commission locked in. I can gear down a little bit, or they don't really need to hear from me as much. Not so, because how you close, you'll see, is how we end up here tonight, right? So having said that, I'm going to get into the lecture piece of this. And away we go. Okay. So let me start the slideshow piece of it. And if you can't see or you can't hear this, go ahead and open your mic and let me know. But again, try to stay in a listening mode while I'm going through this so that you can really pay attention. Okay. All right, here we go. So developing an answer to the question, how do you treat your past clients like family? In other words, okay, what does that mean? Because I didn't really know. So it's a pretty essential question to ask. So let's get into it. So I'm going to take a step backwards, because I always want you to understand my analogy when I teach you is that this is an assembly line-like process. It's holistic. It goes from start to finish. So all of these pieces are interconnected so that you can micro manage each section of it. So I have a lot of top producers that say, listen, I've never really acted in a systematic way. I've never had systems. Okay, well, just see it as stages that you've gone through and just slow down and see one piece and get it all checklisted, right? So last week, we talked about the closing process being an entire, almost like a mini business. And it's really critical because you're paying attention to details and all of this stuff, right? So let's get into this. How does your closing process set you up for success or failure? Well, as a reminder, it's critical to remember that if you abdicate, okay, not delegate, abdicate means you dump and run your responsibility for closing your client, you may be neglecting them and creating ill will. Here's a key point. No matter how well you performed prior to that, okay? So it's really, really important to say, as we segue from closing to past client, there is that moment in time, which is usually 30 to 60 days long, maybe even quicker sometimes. But if you look at that, and for example, your company or you have a closing coordinator that you work for, and you completely give it away and turn your back, there's a strange disconnect from this intensity of attention from prospect to client, and especially during that client process where you are really paying attention to that person, and suddenly you're gone. And I can speak to this because before I had all of the systems really wired in and all of the people, the micro people, when I say micro, I mean they're small. I mean, I make their job super small so that when they work for me for a very short period of time, they're super intensely focused on that one thing. They're expert at that and they get it done. So we are a series of people, including me, who step in and out of these processes when we're needed, right? So if I'm all of a sudden the main character along with my client care manager, and then we just get to the closing spot and we abdicate it over to Chelsea, Chelsea's completely proficient and super organized. However, all of a sudden they feel this like disconnect. There's a void because we were very intensely involved. Hey, listen, I was in the open house and they said this. Hey, I'm going to go show something there. Hey, here's the negotiation. Here's the net sheet. Do this, do that. Boom. Silence. It's a real strange disconnect on a personal level with somebody when you went from super hyper caring for them to just completely abdicating. And in some cases, I find this more with lower end deals where people are more money sensitive and they start counting the money they think you're making. And they said, oh yeah, once you had your commission, you were gone. I heard that several times over the course of my career. And it wasn't the case at all. It was like, I'm not the expert, but you're right. I should have made it clear on how I was passing that off and that I'm at the other end of the cell phone and I'm still watching over this. But I get out of the way of the closing coordinator so there's not too many cooks in the kitchen because that's their specialty, right? So that was really something I had to understand over time. But once you close with care, now what? What's the most critical component of good past client follow-up? So here we get into the what to do with your past clients, right? Well, it's critical to make your past client follow-up intentional and systematic. Here's another lesson I learned. I was not really intentional or systematic about my past client follow-up. I would drive by somebody's house and say, oh, I remember Jimmy. I'm going to call Jimmy. God, Jimmy, how's it going? That was great. Wonderful. Right? And just to say hello. So it was more just one of those things to hope that I put a touch on somebody where unintentionally, they would just, remember that I did this and say, oh, I'll send them this guy's name. And it would be very haphazard, right? Very half-assed, quite frankly. But then I started to think, well, wait a minute. If I have all these campaigns to convert expired leads, probate leads, right? Why don't I have an intentional way to follow up my past clients who are likely, if I treated them well in the closing process and I follow up, what if I had something intentionally following up with them that continue to empower them with this new methodology? Now, remember, the methodology we preach here is very heavily based on gifting information, including information products, which we talk about, right? A buyer and a seller plan. We talk about that very in depth in week 2, right? So we really get into that creation of that unique selling proposition package. So it's so nice and intentional up there, but yet they come to this past client and I'm not doing anything like this anymore. I'm not giving that information anymore. And that's where it hit me. That what's the best way to maintain your relationship with the past clients in a professional manner? The answer came to me based on how I began. Well, it's important to keep your past clients updated on the local market conditions on a regular basis to maintain your professional positioning. Okay. Now remember, when you first meet somebody, you're introducing yourself professionally as this realtor. And hopefully, if you're being trained by me and coached by me, you're doing that in a very intentional, systematic way by providing this kind of information to them, right? So I'll open it up. So it hits me let me give you one piece of this, okay? Because I don't want to distract you with a whole big conversation about this. Hopefully you can see this on top of the screen. But I have this one-page statistical market update that we create every single month like clockwork. On November 2nd, most likely, this will be sitting in my email and distributed to all the Griffin agents so that they can use it and I can use it. And so it is a one-page statistical market update that tells the people up front, meaning the leads to the prospects to the clients, it tells them what's going on in the marketplace. But why wouldn't that be relevant to my past client? Because if I started and I want to become their realtor, their professional realtor for life, why am I stopping something when they become a past client? I thought to myself. and I'm already creating this piece of information, and they've bought something or sold something, and they enjoyed the experience, let's continue the professional experience like I am a portfolio manager. So most of my clients have bought and sold something, meaning they did both sides of the transaction locally. But even when they don't, I sold something for an older couple that moved to New Mexico. I still decided that all of my past clients would receive this once a quarter in the mail. So, but you're like, yeah, but they're New Mexico. Yes, but those people, ironically, continued to talk to me about the market, and they still know people here. So if I'm their realtor for life and I'm professionally sending this to them and I care enough, well, then they're more likely to pick up the phone and call their friend and say, you got to call this guy, right? Because I'm professionally in that relationship still. Now, let's keep going. What's the best way to maintain your relationship with your past clients in a personal manner? See, most training and coaching, and I know most trainers and coaches don't make the differentiation, right? I make the TCM formula happen. Training is against the systematic approach. You build a system and you train people to repeat that so they do it, right? Coaching is when they go out and try it, like they give a listing presentation, they do an open house, whatever they do, they come back and say, I did this. And then you can say, okay, I trained you to do this. You did it a little bit wrong. Here, put it back inside the training. Mentoring is really in the heat of the moment. When you want to write up something or you want to talk to somebody, you need to pick up the phone and call a mentor. I find so many brokerages that don't have a mentor at the end of the line for somebody that knows what they're talking about. And that mentor is usually savvy about the system if it's consistent through the company. Go try to find that. It's pretty difficult, right? So these trainers aren't teaching that. So what they're teaching is more this personality-based thing that your past clients should be getting a birthday card. Okay, well, I started to think about that. I said, well, wait a minute. I'm not even acting as if I'm still their professional person. So I'm going to put that first. Forget the personal stuff. I want to maintain a professional relationship with them. Okay. So check the box. Let's mail this thing out. And by the way, subsequently we evolved, and I'll show you this in a second. I'll show you the evolution of what my email newsletter looks like every month. So there's a slight difference in that the mailer, it's not me talking, right? The mailer every quarter is a two-dimensional, a marketing piece. Now we do use QR codes. So if they want to go in and hear me talk about it, they can, right? So that goes out quarterly in the mail, but then 12 months a year, we decided, hey, why don't I do a video reading what this is and giving a little bit of insight and then emailing that every month. So I doubled down on the professional contacts before I ever started talking about personal. Let that sink in, because I'm telling you strategically how I built a system for just past clients, right? So now I just went to 16 touches in a year to a past client without being a pest, right? I'm not calling up going, hey, how's it going? Do you know anybody? Do you know anybody? Do you know anybody? Now you become that person. This is why I'm saying when you lead with gifting, hey, here's some information, right? Right? That's what it leads with. And you're just sending that info with calls to action. Now that's reactive. I'm waiting, but I'll tell you in a second how you can incorporate a phone call at least once a year. Okay. So now, sorry, I have a cough drop in here, so I don't lose my voice. What's the best way to maintain your relationship with your past clients in a personal manner? Well, watch this difference. It's important to send your clients what? I'm not a believer first in a happy birthday card. God bless those that do. Paul Cantu is probably one of the best past client sphere of influence marketers, and he does a lot of personalized stuff. But I would even say to him, you got to have a happy property anniversary gift on a yearly basis and call them to maintain your personal relationship, continuously expressing your gratitude. See, the personal time that you got connected was that happy property anniversary day, right? When that transaction went down, that is memorialized as an anniversary date every year. So you use the concept of an anniversary to give a gift. And if you have a good system, you never forget that gift. Most of us that are married, have a partner or whatever, we don't even remember it that well, right? but we remember our past clients better because we systematize it somewhere to remind us. Or in my case, I'm even more sophisticated than that with technology. We actually have a trigger 2 weeks before the Happy Property Anniversary gift that sends a note out to a company called Zen Direct to send the gift that we have chosen in a 10-year cycle, brownies, caramels. So automatically that program is sending that gift and it just says Happy Property Anniversary, right? So you can even go to that extent, but you don't need to do that. If you had just a simple spreadsheet like we teach that had the closing date, you could look at everybody as soon as November clicks over. You could look at everybody that closed in November and you could go on Zen Direct and manually send them, hey, it's your property anniversary month. Happy property anniversary. You don't have to worry about the specific date. You can knock it all out on one date on the first day of the month every month. Now, of course, this is predicated on you all creating past clients. Those of that you haven't done a deal yet, you have to understand this is the goal. This is the asset you're creating, this happy past client. We call them happy Griffins at the Griffin Realty Group. You want to create a happy past client that you can do this for so that they are likely to repeat with you and refer you as time goes along, right? So let's get into the referral request because see, again, everybody's like so out of order. Give me a birthday gift and then ask me for a referral, right? And again, I'm doing an injustice to some people that are good coaches and trainers, been successful for a long time. I'm just telling you, I'm a firm believer in giving information first, giving a gift second, and then you're set up to ask if you do it appropriately, right? So what's the proper way to ask for referrals without ruining your relationship? By the way, this goes all the way to the front end of your business too. When you're trying to create a prospect or you've already softly created one and you over pursue them with this kind of concept, are you ready yet? Are you ready yet? Are you ready yet? They run away. And this call you back in half the time. Why? What are you going to say to me in half the time? I told you I was ready in June. You're going to call me in March to do what? See, this is why a lot of this coaching and training, or really training first, is so far off because it really doesn't consider what is it like to be over pursued, right? It's yucky. I don't want to talk to you. You're the one. I'm not ready. I told you June. Or no, I still don't have anybody. You called me last month. I don't have anybody. See, there's nothing to talk about, right? So here's what we say. The proper way would be when you call them on the property anniversary date. So now for me, and I have a lot of past clients, so it's different for me. But when we call them on the property anniversary date, right? We ask them after they, again, the script is a little bit more thorough. It talks about, hey, we sent you a, happy property anniversary. Hey, it's me. Happy property anniversary. So-and-so. Did you get the gift? Right? Yes, you did. No? Oh, no. You're still at the address, right? This is a good way to see if somebody's already moved on from you, right? You're still at the address. Is that correct? Right? I know, Grant, that's happened to us, hasn't it? Right? So now you're still at the address. We confirm all the information. Wonderful little chit chat. Hey, by the way, are any of your friends or family thinking about selling or buying so I can send them a plan to help them get top dollar, to help them get the house, the best buy at the best price, right? And then lastly, you can ask them if they have any plans to move, right? So it's so much buildup of goodwill through information and the gift of information. Remember, this is a real gift. You have taken the time to go out and curate the information, which means you went out into MLS or whatever source, got these details. You went out, looked up these gift companies. You curated that information. You organized it so it would go out to them at the right times, and you productized it so it shows up physically in their hands. That is a big deal. That's not something that's just like sloughed off. That's not whimsical. That is actually a big deal that you go through that. That's why this methodology, somebody asked me again today, well, can I just send the follow-up stuff digitally? No, you can send follow-up stuff digitally, but what makes this whole methodology unique is the physical gift of information, which changes the way that they see us versus all the competitors who just want to dump something in their email. And when you're giving real, information, look at all this stuff, right? You're giving all this information. What? They're going to consume it digitally? I don't think so. But if you organize it and you put cover letters on it and you tell them how to consume it, you empower them. So the whole idea of gift giving is not just like to patronize them. and give them a nice little gift and make them feel good, right? Sure, the property anniversary thing, that's a little bit more fun, but the gift of information empowers them. And if you get up underneath somebody and you empower them, they're more likely to lean back into you or to be magnetized back to you to want to help you find somebody that needs you. And then obviously, when it's time for them to do their thing, you're the no-brainer. Okay. Okay, so it's important to realize, this is my pro tip for the week. It's important to realize that asking for and receiving referrals from your past clients requires a very different framework from asking other professionals for referrals. Let me talk about this for a second. You hear this whole concept of by referral only. That's a Joe Stumpf line. And then Brian Buffini was taught by Joe, and he took off and they made all this, stuff famous. But it's soft and unorganized to a large extent because it's only a tactic. It's not really a whole business plan that says, okay, when I get a referral, what value proposition am I giving them to be unique that actually shows them I know the selling process, I know the buying process. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of people are just teaching a piece and a tactic. They're not making it a cohesive idea across all of these modules that create this past client who's likely to repeat and refer, which makes the whole thing keep going again and again, right? So when you're looking for referrals, I prefer to try to see it this way. Sorry, it's the end of the cough drop. Little chew. So the idea is at the front end, I'm looking to create a sales machine that can go out to the general marketplace, especially people I do not know, and give them an offer so compelling that offer that's so compelling and that information fulfillment creates a referral system for me. Follow me? I see the same way. If I do the right thing and give, that giving refers into me. So it's the same thing at the end. If I give to the past clients, that refers into me, right? Now, outside of that machine, that's obvious, and outside of your personal friends and family, because by the way, if you think you have a sphere of influence, quote unquote, that's going to refer you, Instagram following, Facebook, LinkedIn, then you have to give this information away about the market to those platforms and say, if you know anybody who's thinking about buying or selling now or in the near future, I can give them a whole package of information, not just what's happening in the marketplace. So you have to think about this framework, right? Because when you hear the word referral, it can be very confusing. If a past client refers me, it's because they've been through the entire process with me and really liked it, okay? If I want to get referrals from professionals, I can't just go, hey, probate attorney, hey, financial advisor, I'd love your stuff. Well, why? Because I can empower your clients with information that will help them get top dollar when they sell or get the best deal when they buy. I'd be happy to give you a sample package at what I'd be giving them. And then if you can visit with me, I'll show you how I do a complete analysis to really empower them. That's how you set up a professional network in face-to-face, not just by showing up and playing basketball with them and all the things I've heard. It's like, yeah, okay, to a certain extent that works, but I see these BNI groups too. And I have one of my clients that's in BNI, and it's like, oh my gosh, this guy is like never really gotten referred by these people. So it's like, what are we doing here? Right. And I said to him, because you never really went in there and presented to the whole group what makes you unique. Right. So you have to do that. So think about this, that it's your past clients are one source of referrals, but there's all other sorts. One, you can create your own referral system to the marketplace. Two, you can get professional referrals, but don't lump them all together because they are not the same thing. All right. Okay, Grant, I think I did that all in one breath, right? So let's go to, let me stop the screen and let's get out there. Yeah. 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 It takes a while, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah, well, but Shauna, you're making a case for training, right? And I think a lot of people miss what that really means, and that's why I always try to bring that framework in. What I realized that was training has to be against something. So the thing that helped my brain think was like, okay, if you go to boot camp in the army, right? They're going to send you through what? An 8-week boot camp that's going to train you on systems to save your life. And so, presumably, I mean, I haven't been to it, but presumably, they're going to teach you how to take this gun and these bullets, burgers and fries in the military, and they're going to make you understand that stuff inside and out, 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 because that, in that case, could very well be the understanding of that mechanism could be the thing that saves your life. Well, it'll sound dramatic when I say this, but that's why we do these burgers and fries thing, and we say this is your guns and bullets to protect you. Because if you think you're going to go into the wild world of real estate and you're going to wing it, or you're just going to use a tactic, you are dead on arrival. And what's sad about that is somebody could really be enthusiastic and have all of the right intention to be successful, but without this kind of systematic approach, it is brutally difficult, getting more difficult by the moment, right? Right, right. Why the business has always been relegated to mostly a really, part-time business, which by the way, I counsel every young person, don't go quitting your day job because it's still a business opportunity, even with us and with the system. It's to your point. And again, they should know you were a veteran of 20 years before you stumbled into our world too, right? So we all learned by just the herd mentality, right? Was copying this tactic, and that's why I cringe when I think about other training and coaching that I've been exposed to. It was always this one tactic, and everybody was fighting over. Well, my tactic is no. You got to look at holistically. Can we fit those tactics somehow into a holistic approach? Right? I mean, you had your lead generators promoting that. Hardcore scripters. You had your back, your referral people. Well, you can't really do any one of those things alone, right? They have to all be somewhat incorporated into a systematic approach. And then I think you can really figure out how to simplify, the principles behind each one of those tactics. And then you can have a system, right? But that's the hardest part of this for me was the last, 13 years is just going through this and trying to say, all right, well, 12 years to be exact, almost to the day. So you go through this and you say, all right, I got to get away from people that think they have systems and really get up above it and see it holistically. And more so, what's cool about that is Michael Gerber's directive to figure out how the business really works is the best one, right? Just observe the business first. And when you really think about that challenge, the easy answer is, well, the business works inside of something called the multiple listing service. That's a marketplace like the New York Stock Exchange. And what's inside of that drives the business is a listing. And a listing is owned by a seller. And then you say, okay, well, then who gets the seller to give them the listing to put it into MLS? Well, the listing agent. Great. How do I become a listing agent? Oh, wait a minute. Before you become a listing agent, the MLS is also a marketplace like the stock market that gives enormous amounts of statistics. You should figure out what the median is and above, because it's not just go after all listings, it's go after the median priced ones and above so that per deal, you are profitable. Because if you can't be profitable on a per deal basis, it's much more difficult to reach your financial gross goal, let alone your net goal. So it becomes a very logical way to look at things. And you're like, wow, that's pretty fifth grade simple. But then it leaves you in the position, okay, I get it. Now, how am I going to do it and be unique amongst all of these people? And especially when you have younger agents and they're like, how am I going to do it? I'm brand new to this thing. I don't know how to do this. Well, don't compete on the name of the brand. Don't compete on the size of the company. Don't compete on resume because you don't even have one. Compete based on how you empower that lister. Now, again, the buyers are going to come, but compete on how will you empower them? And it turns out you can make a general concept for that person. And there's no top producer that's going to take a seller through a different process universally, in its base. We all take them through the same thing. You can argue with me over how I labeled the 7 steps or whatever, but if you price it wrong, or you don't consider pricing first, you're going to be dead. If you don't like what you see on pricing, you can recondition the house. Once that's done, you put the sizzle on the steak and stage the thing, because most buyers don't have any idea. And then and only then can you talk about listings marketing, not your marketing of your company, but how will you promote this listing so that the public can see it marketed against what it's priced for. You see what I'm saying? Everything just becomes so crazy logical, right? But even though you start to garner all of that trainable system, it's us believing. That's why it goes back to week 1. Do we believe individually that we can explain that 5th grade level simple stuff to somebody without panicking, without thinking, oh my gosh, I know what he said, but I'm only 23 years old, right? How am I going to do this? I'm in this house. Oh my gosh, I've been doing this for years and I've been doing mostly buyers. What the heck am I going to say? Read it to them. And that's why we even made it simpler and we made the infographics. Read it to them. Look, Kate's been with me for 14 years. She sits down at a table and she takes out the infographic and she puts it in front of her like this and starts talking. I grab it while we're talking. I go, whoop, and I slide it over to him and I point to something. So, there are very subtle things to train the brain to do, even when you have the goods and you get it. You come on a training call. That's why coaching becomes important. Coaching telemarketing is the easiest because we have these recordings. But like if somebody goes in and gives a listing presentation, I'll say, here were the beats. Did you hit them all? Well, I kind of, no. You can't cherry pick a system that has been proven to work, right? You can't cherry pick it and say, but I didn't feel that. So the training has to be believed first. You have to believe that somebody's figured it out at least to a 90% level. As you know, as part of the mastermind, we're always going to look at the details, but you have to buy in that somebody figured this out. And then you have to go try it for yourself and make notes about what you think you did versus what you did. Come back for the coaching, which is a slight adjustment, and go back again, right? And that volley back and forth between coming to be trained and hear it over and over, then try it and making the adjustments, right? How many times do we think we said something on the phone that we heard 1,000 times? It didn't sound like it at all, right? Because the emotions welled up, right? And I did it a lot when I was trying to get myself disciplined because I was good enough to close people without being super disciplined. And you get sucked into that. But that's in direct proportion to your energy. And you find out, wow, I can't break into an area like that. Because if I want to take my success on Cape Cod and do more downtown Boston, like I started to do 3 years ago, right? Because now that my kids are out, it's not just my brother up there, it's me. I couldn't go in there and muscle it. I had to show them I have a formula. Well, how many of you sold in the building? None. But here's how many I've sold using this formula. And if that's most important to you, I'm not your guy, but I'm still going to leave you better than I found you. Because if you expire with that person, I'm going to come back and say, I told you the formula was more important, right? So that's the confidence you begin to gain when you've been trained, I suppose, like a soldier who knows I'm going into that foxhole and I've got a strategy and I'm going to stick to it. Now, of course, all hell breaks loose once in a while, but that's when you hang on to your strategy for dear life, right? And you go back to it. When you feel lost in a presentation, you feel lost in the phone, or you say, I don't know what to say. Not true. You do. When you have a system and you're being trained on it, you just have to trust your memory and then build your certain discipline to stay inside of it. You have to get over self to stay disciplined. It's almost like the cyborg part of ourselves is getting trained so there's no thinking, right? You're taking the neural network in the brain through training to make it as tight as possible. So when it's under pressure, it doesn't easily separate, right? That's what training really is. It took me a long time to realize there was a huge difference between the word training and coaching. It's a huge difference. And mentoring is that sizzle on the steak that, holy crap, I'm nervous. I'm writing up this offer and I'm not sure I wrote it right. You got to be able to call somebody on the bat line at 8:00 at night, right? Yeah. 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 Even for a rookie, oftentimes I'll hear Shauna like, "Oh, it's so much easier. The rookie comes in with no bad habits." That's not true. The rookie or somebody that's youthful has existed in the world and has a perception of the way the world works. So they've looked at real estate and they're enthusiastic, but they've maybe seen it on A&E, right? And they've seen, a staging show, and they've been driving by real estate since they were a kid, and it intrigues them, and they look at it online. Well, that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with how the business really works. So they bring that whole perception in, and they bring their perception, more so about how small business works. Most small businesses fail, and everybody in here is a small business, right? Everybody, every individual agent is a small business. Like I tell all the Griffins that come to us, right? You're just a business hooking up to my business. And we're two small businesses, relatively speaking, trying to make sure we get a formula to protect each other and succeed together, right? So I think all of those perceptions, young, older, whatever, it doesn't matter. You have to try to slowly introduce a framework that says this was built based on what we think is the truth about how a house gets sold and somebody buys a house. We think we know pretty close to 85% of the truth, but we're always in pursuit through a masterminding of the rest of it because there's a dynamic component to it that never changes. It's always the little blind spots we naturally have as humans. And then anything that changes in the world and the way the world works, we have to reconcile that too, right? So you can always get a nice base. And in the meantime, you're getting a more sustainable and predictable business because you're behaving in this routine way. Laura and I have our neural networks are so hyper tight. We can almost smell quickly when we haven't worked on a piece of the micro part of a system, right? We can hear it screaming at us, right? And when we really abandon the system, we can watch $15,000, 20,000, 50,000 walk out the door. It's scary because the thing is, you see how much business any of us can be talking to. You can get a new agent in here that does an open house this weekend, and they can be doing one at a high-end listing. And that person can walk through the door and representing a buy side at 3.4, 2.7, 800. And they can miss saying something by script. They can forget to give the package of information. Voom, out that money goes. Just like that. When there was a chance, now it's gone. And that's what a system, yeah, yeah. And that's painful when you become that aware, right? Good. All right. Questions from anybody else? Thoughts, whatever? Pretty self-explanatory. Yeah. 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 More importantly, it's a really nice thing if you can go into your database and see that they're on your past client follow-up system. That's what you should check. When that happens, is this person opening these? Are they getting them? And using that as an opportunity to verify all their contact information. Hey, by the way, you've been getting my stuff? Oh, yeah. That's why I called. Or no, geez, I don't see anything. That's how you clean up yourself too. Cool. Look at it. He got the deer in the headlight look. Yep. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Good. Yep. Yep. Grant is the five-star gold student of this whole thing. You know that. Grant is the only one that is consistently nerding out with me all the time, right? That's right. Yeah. All right, last call. Then I'm going home. I'm going to drink some mushroom hot chocolate with a little bit of MCT oil in it. I'm going to go into rapid eye movement. That's my formula, baby. All right. All right. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Okay. Ciao. Oh, yeah. I saw that. Saw that. My bad. I never looked at my thing this afternoon. I got caught up in stuff. My bad. Tell her I apologize and I will make myself available tomorrow. Okay. All right. Bye, DeBlay. Yep. Thank you. I see you too out there, Amy. Let me recognize all these people. Stevie, Chelsea, S for everybody. Thank you. Melanie, thanks for coming.